Okay, a lot of you guys have heard me talk about Amaranth, and this is a wild variety of Amaranth. It's just beginning to form some seed heads on it. If you ask me what variety of the Amaranth this is, I have no idea. I'm going to show you some Hopi Red Dye and talk about that in just a second, but this I found growing in one of the parks in the area around Arlington, and I collected some seed off it, and this is where I had my corn growing earlier in the year, and I just threw a whole bunch of the seed down with the corn, and when I pulled the corn out, I looked for a few plants that were doing well, and this was one of them, and I've allowed this to grow, and we'll harvest some seed off it. We've got seed heads forming everywhere on it. Again, I have no idea what variety of Amaranth this is. Got a little bit of Hopi Red Dye growing down here with it. Hopi Red Dye everywhere, but I'm going to see how this grain works out for how much the plants produce, and maybe establish this as a wild plant up at the bug out location in Arkansas. Hold on, I still got more for you today. Okay, so I mentioned Hopi Red Dye, and this is Hopi Red Dye Amaranth here. You'll notice the leaves no longer look red, they look green, and that's because they're fully exposed to the sun, and it's a lot warmer than where this plant grows natively right now. And what that means is the red is actually, this variety of Amaranth that does well in cool weather, because the red is a dark color, and of course it's more concentrating on its ability to pull in the sunlight. So the plant is adapted to a greater temperature and more intense sunlight. And I'll show you some in just a second that hasn't turned green. But as you see, the heads are beginning to weigh down, and if I just kind of touch them, you can see. Let me get this so I know that you can see. There's some of the Amaranth grain, and mixed in with it some chaff. Just a week ago, this Amaranth wasn't producing any seed yet at all, and then about 2 or 3 days ago, the seed coming out was a very light colored seed. Of course, this seed is almost black looking. So this is ready to go now, and what I want to do is I'll go ahead and I'll cut these today, and I've got a couple other ones I'm going to cut, and I'm going to put those aside while I'm gone and let them dry. And when I come back from the bug out location over the weekend, I'm going to show you how not only to extract the grain from Amaranth, but how to separate this chaff. It's really easy to do. It takes a paper plate and a little bit of creativity to do it, and I'll show you how to do that. I did about 8 pounds of Golden Giant Amaranth this year, and I didn't record how to do that because we were in a big hurry. We were leaving town. But these are volunteers. That's the other thing I wanted to point out. This pod is growing what's called fish peppers. I'll zoom in right at the end so you can take a look at what fish pepper plants look like. But they're an African-American heirloom pepper from Africa, used a lot in Maryland for like cooking crab cakes and things like that to spice them up. But these were among about 20 of these things that were growing in this flower pot just from previous years, self-reseeding, and I let 2 of them grow up to provide some shade to my peppers and get me some extra seed stock from a knowingly healthy plant. So hold on one second, I'll zoom in on these peppers and then I'll show you something else. So you can see there the fish peppers are a really beautiful kind of green and white color. These aren't producing any peppers yet. I planted them late in the year to try to get them through, but since they're in a pot, I can bring them in during cold weather and extend their season. Real quick, I want to show you something else as well. Right there, you're looking at a jalapeno pepper plant. Doesn't look that impressive, and overall it's not, but here's the interesting thing. About a week ago, that pepper plant was in my garden. I dug it up and put it in this pot to make room for some new plantings that I'm doing right now. And that pepper I'll be able to take inside winter over and start producing jalapenos very early in the season next year without restarting plants. So that's another thing. I got just a little bit more to show you today. Hold tight and we'll be right back. Right here what we've got are some Mariachi peppers, and they're doing really well. I'll want to zoom in. They've kind of, like you see the one, orangish red one down there. That one's ready to pick, but you'll see a lot of little ones. You see tons of little ones starting to form on here. This variety is a hybrid hot pepper. It's not really very hot. It's kind of like a mild jalapeno, as long as you don't eat the seeds. The seeds are blistering hot on these things. I made the mistake of getting too cocky with thinking they weren't that hot and ate one like an apple, and wish to God I didn't, and I ended up chewing on ice cubes for about a half an hour, so don't make that mistake. But de-seeded, these are a very mild pepper. They produce a tremendous amount of peppers per harvest. We've had about 4 times this year where they've been completely covered, we've picked them, and they've come back. So we got at least one more crop, a 5th big harvest. It's only 2 plants, and when I dehydrated them twice, I got about a pint of dehydrated peppers. A pint of dehydrated peppers is a lot of dehydrated hot pepper. We've also done a lot of these up with bacon and cheese, cut in half, cheese inside them, wrap a piece of bacon around them, cook them on the grill, just like we do jalapenos. I actually like them better than jalapenos. They've got an amazing flavor, even though they're a hybrid. Not good for saving seeds, but you can see we've got them in a pot here, and they'll be going in to get overwintered as well. Down in the bottom, I've got a little bit of arugula and some calendula flower down there just starting to come up, and that'll be a fall crop as well. Just a bit more. Hold on, we'll be right back. I know this isn't the best video shot here, but I'm doing what I can. I don't want to have to move everything, but this is kind of a lot of our trees and bushes that we've been working with that are going to be going to Arkansas and started next year as part of our permaculture efforts. This is a brown turkey fig. I've actually gotten a lot of figs off it this year already, and I'll try to do some manual zoom with the editing software, but you can see it's got figs on it now. So I've gotten about 2 dozen figs off it, and it's putting out a second crop of figs. This is only the second year tree. When I bought it this year, it was just a little stick coming up out of the pot. This is all this year's growth, and we'll be working with this. These are pomegranates. They'll also be going to Arkansas. We've got some other figs, brown turkey, Celeste figs behind it. So this is some of the stuff we'll be transporting out. But even here, just in containers, we're getting production out of them. Not quite done yet. Got a couple more things for you today. Just real quick here, I wanted to show you this is what Hopi Red Dye Amaranth. This is another volunteer bit of Hopi Red Dye Amaranth looks like. And you'll notice it hasn't turned all green. Well, the reason is I've got trees over here, and this bed gets shade for about half of the day and only gets about half a day of this intense sunlight in this Texas sun. So this plant has retained its red. But you can even see down here, I'll just go ahead and pull this leaf off, the leaf losing the green because the red's not necessary. This red actually does form a very good dye, though. You can mix these leaves and the chaff and the seed with water, and you get a good red dye for dyeing things like cotton cloth. In fact, that's why it's called Red Dye Amaranth. The Hopi Indians used to use it for that. And I've got about one more thing to show you today, so hold on, I'll be back and we'll wrap up. Well, hey, I don't really have a lot more to show you. I just wanted to kind of end this video actually able to look you in the eye and say hello. I did want to point out, though, I've got a bunch more peppers here. There's about 6 pepper plants here, and my ones over in that bed aren't a fluke. Again, we're looking at peppers about 4 foot high. I've got anchos, I've got big Jim Sweets. These things are awesome. Let me pull one of these off too for a salad today. That looks like maybe it would be a hot pepper. Generally they grow longer. This one kind of curled up, but that's a sweet pepper. Those are just awesome. I've got some California bells over here. They're still doing good. Everything's doing good, but you'll notice some sparseness in the area around me. We are reaching a transitional stage. It is September. It's hot out today. It's in the 90s. I know some of you guys up north are like, wow, that's pretty hot for September, but it's normal for around here. But things are beginning to change. And I want you to be thinking about your gardens for the fall. One bed over here I have just completely ripped everything out and replanted it with fava beans. I'll get fava beans this winter before we leave, and I'll leave nitrogen in the soil for whoever buys this house and you know, takes over where I've left off with it. So I'm continuing to improve the conditions even though I'm going to be leaving, so that I leave it behind better than it was when I got here. And I think that's important too, and hopefully whoever wants to buy this house when I sell it this January is going to value the garden, because I sure put a lot of work into the things around here. But even if they don't, we've learned a lot over 3 years of gardening here, and we've learned a lot that we're going to turn loose on 5 acres in Arkansas. In some ways it's going to be an easier environment, in some ways it's going to be a harder environment, but I always knew we were leaving. And I guess my point to you today is, even if you're only at a place for a certain amount of time, you're going to be leaving. This stuff could have fed us if anything went wrong while we were still here. And you know what they say, if you want something to go wrong, invite Murphy into your life. That's Murphy's Law, for those of you who didn't catch that. And he'll kick you. He'll kick you right, you know, in that certain area that you don't want to be kicked. The stomach, right? No, the other thing. Anyway, that's what Murphy does. So this was insurance against Murphy, but we are so far ahead now. We've learned what works and what doesn't work. And I encourage you, the season's not over. Think about what you can do. Cool weather crops, lettuces, spinaches, fava beans. You know, we're about ready to go from, this is New Zealand spinach, and we're about to go from New Zealand spinach to regular spinach, because it's just that time of year again. And while I look forward to it, I'm gonna miss, you know, this stuff's pretty good too. But this is what it's really all about, being self-sufficient and self-reliant. I can do it right here in Arlington, and this may be one of the last videos of the garden here, maybe one or two more before we're moving on out. But I wanted to just, remind you guys how important it is to, grow where you stand. This has been Jack Spirko with another Survival Podcast video. I hope you enjoyed it in absence of a show today. I'll be back from the bug out location Monday with a new show, and there will be a show Friday.